The billionaire would never have imagined that his ex-wife was hiding this secret, capable of changing his destiny. The reunion with the billionaire happened abruptly. He discovered the pregnancy and was astonished to learn he was the father of 3 children. If you enjoy stories like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We post daily. Continuing, Marina never imagined that one night could change everything. The corporate event at the Grand Central Hotel in Manhattan was filled with the Manhattan elite, a world she knew only from afar, through the magazines she flipped through during work breaks. She was there only because her boss needed someone to organize the company's documents during the conference. Wearing her best black suit and trying to go unnoticed among the guests, she didn't expect his eyes to find her in the crowd. Roderick Sterling, heir to one of the largest business empires in the United States, owner of construction companies, mining corporations, and banks that moved billions. They had met years ago when she was just a young university student working part-time as a waitress in one of the restaurants frequented by high society. Their relationship had been intense, passionate, but also impossible. He was committed to family obligations. She struggled to support her studies. When Marina discovered she was pregnant with their first child, Gabriel too, she decided to disappear. She didn't want to be seen as the woman who tried to trap a billionaire with a pregnancy. For 5 years, she raised Gabriel alone. She worked as an administrative assistant at a law firm in downtown Manhattan, earning enough to live with dignity in a simple apartment in Brooklyn Heights. The boy grew up asking about his father, and she always invented excuses, promising that one day she would explain everything. Now, in the hotel's gilded ballroom, Roderick's eyes found her, and time seemed to stop. He was more handsome, more imposing. His Italian suit perfectly molded his athletic body. His dark hair had a few grey strands at the temples that only enhanced his charm. When he approached, Marina felt her legs tremble. Marina, his voice was the same, deep and captivating. You simply disappeared. Roderick, She swallowed hard, trying to maintain her composure. I didn't expect to find you here. Of course you didn't. You're an expert at disappearing. There was hurt in his voice, but also something deeper. 5 years, Marina, 5 years without a word, without an explanation. They talked for hours, away from the party's buzz. Roderick spoke about his businesses, about how her absence had left a void that no other woman could fill. Marina talked about her work, about the simple life she had built, but avoided mentioning Gabriel. When he directly asked if there was anyone special in her life, she lied. There's no one, she said, looking at her own hands. The tension between them was palpable. Roderick invited her for a drink at the hotel bar, then for dinner at the restaurant. Hours flew by, and before they knew it, it was already dawn. He invited her up to his room, just to talk more. Marina knew it was dangerous, but she couldn't resist. The suite occupied the entire top floor, with a view of the Manhattan skyline. Roderick opened a bottle of French champagne, and they sat on the sofa, talking about old dreams, about plans that had been interrupted. Gradually, the distance between them diminished. First, he touched her hand. Then, he brushed a strand of hair from her face. When he finally kissed her, Marina felt as if all those years of separation were just a nightmare from which she was finally waking. They made love with the intensity of those who had spent years silently desiring each other. Roderick touched her as if she were something precious that could break, yet at the same time with a passion that made her completely lose control. She surrendered completely, forgetting for a few hours all the reasons why she had run from him years ago. When dawn broke, Marina woke in Roderick's arms, feeling complete for the first time in a long while. But then reality hit her like a punch to the stomach. Gabriel would be waking up, asking for her. The nanny who looked after him on weekends must be worried. And most importantly, how would she explain to Roderick about the existence of the son he didn't know he had? While he slept, Marina silently dressed and left the hotel. In the taxi back home, tears streamed down her face. She knew she was being cowardly again, but she saw no other way out. How could she explain that she had hidden a son from him for 5 years? How could she admit that she had always known where to find him, but chose to raise Gabriel alone? The following weeks were a torment. Marina tried to focus on work, but her mind constantly returned to that night. And then, The symptoms began. Nausea, dizziness, sore breasts. First, she tried to deny it. Then she took 3 pharmacy tests, all positive. She was pregnant again. At work, her colleagues began to notice her paleness, the morning sickness that made her rush to the restroom. Felicity and Julia, 2 lawyers who had always looked down on her for being just an assistant, started making malicious comments. "Marina's been acting strange, hasn't she?" Felicity whispered to Julia during their coffee break. "Nauseous every morning, refusing coffee. Could she be pregnant again?" "Again, she already has a child," Julia asked, feigning surprise, although she knew perfectly well about Gabriel's existence. "Yes, she does. A 5-year-old boy. She never talks about the father. She must be another single mother," Felicity replied scornfully. "Just imagine, pregnant again and alone. What an example for her son." The comments reached Marina's ears, though she pretended not to hear. But when she discovered that the 2 had tampered with her files, deleting important documents and sending compromising emails in her name to harm her, she couldn't take it anymore. She sought out Dr. Charles, the firm's senior partner. "Dr. Charles, I need to speak with you," Marina said, entering his office with eyes red from crying. "What happened, Marina? You don't look well." She told him about the sabotage, showing the evidence she had managed to gather. Dr. Charles was outraged. Felicity and Julia were fired the same day, but the damage was already done. The entire office knew about her pregnancy, and judgmental glances followed her down the corridors. It was then that she made a decision that terrified her: to seek out Roderick, not to ask for financial help or to force a relationship, but because he deserved to know the truth about Gabriel, about the baby she was expecting, about everything. Marina found out he had offices on the Upper East Side and scheduled a meeting through his secretary, lying that she represented a company interested in closing a contract. When she arrived at the 30-story mirrored building, she felt like an ant before a giant. The meeting with Roderick was devastating for both of them. First, she told him about Gabriel, watching his expression shift from surprise to anger, then to deep hurt. He remained silent for long minutes, processing the information that he had lost 5 years of his own son's life. "You stole 5 years from me, Marina," he finally said, his voice trembling with emotion. "5 years of my son's childhood. How could you do that to me?" "I was scared," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "You're Roderick Sterling. I'm a simple administrative assistant. I thought you'd think I was trying to take advantage." "And now, why did you come to me now?" Marina took a deep breath and dropped the second bombshell. "Because I'm pregnant again, with our child." The silence that followed was deafening. Roderick got up from his chair, walked to the window, and looked down at the city below. Marina waited, her heart beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. When Roderick finally turned to her, there were tears in his eyes. "Marina," he said, approaching and kneeling before her chair. "I never stopped loving you, not for a single day in all these years, and now you tell me I have a 5-year-old son and another on the way." She nodded, unable to speak. "Then let's do this right this time," he said, taking her hands in his. "I want to meet Gabriel. I want to take care of you. I want us to be a real family." "Roderick, you don't understand. Your family will never accept this. I don't belong in your world." "Then we'll make our own world," he replied, kissing her hands. "I love you, Marina. I love you, and I love our children. Nothing else matters." But Marina knew things wouldn't be that simple. The Sterling family had plans for Roderick, and she was about to discover how far they were willing to go to protect those plans. The discovery of the second pregnancy changed everything in Marina's life, but not in the way she expected. Roderick proved more determined than ever to take responsibility and build a family. He insisted on accompanying her to medical appointments, and it was during one of them that they received the most surprising news. It wasn't just one baby, but 3 triplets. "My God," Marina whispered, looking at the ultrasound screen. 3 babies. Roderick squeezed her hand, moved. "Our family will be even bigger than we imagined." But the joy was quickly overshadowed by reality. The Sterling family had organized a gala dinner at their mansion on the Upper East Side, supposedly to celebrate the arrival of the new grandchildren. But Marina soon discovered there was a hidden agenda. Dame Helena Sterling, the family matriarch, had invited very specific people to the dinner, the Albright Sinclairs, an equally powerful family with political connections in Washington, D.C. and media companies. They had a daughter who had disappeared as a child, Isabella, and now there were rumors that she had returned. "Roderick, my son," Dame Helena said, pulling him aside during the cocktail hour. "You know we always had the agreement with the Albright Sinclairs about you and Isabella." "Mother, that was 20 years ago. Isabella disappeared when she was 8, and now I have Marina and our children." This young woman appeared out of nowhere. "Son, how can you be sure you're not being manipulated?" The tension at the dinner was palpable. Marina, wearing a discreet navy blue dress that tried to conceal her already visible pregnancy, felt the judgmental stares of the guests. Christine Albright Sinclair, Isabella's mother, barely disguised her hostility. "So you're the famous Marina," Christine said, approaching her during dinner. "I hear you already have a child with my future son-in-law." "With all due respect, Mrs. Albright Sinclair," Marina replied, maintaining her calm, "Roderick is not your son-in-law, and our children are a blessing, not a problem." "What insolence," Christine muttered to her stepdaughter, Raffaella, her husband's daughter from his second marriage. "This woman clearly doesn't know her place." Raffaella, an ambitious young woman who had always lived in the shadow of her disappeared sister, saw an opportunity in the situation to finally be noticed. "Godmother," she whispered, "perhaps we should take a more direct approach." It was then that the attacks began. First, they tried to separate Marina from Roderick by spreading rumors about her reputation. Then, when that didn't work, they resorted to something much crueler. Gabriel, Marina's 5-year-old son, was playing in the schoolyard when he was approached by strangers. "Your mum asked us to pick you up," they lied. The boy, trained by his mother not to go with strangers, screamed and ran inside the school. The attempted kidnapping failed, but the trauma was real. Marina was desperate. "Roderick, they tried to kidnap Gabriel," she cried in his arms. "How can they do that to a child?" Roderick was furious. He hired security guards to protect Marina and Gabriel and began his own investigation. It didn't take long to discover that Christine and Raffaella were behind the scheme. "Mother," he confronted Dame Helena, "your friend tried to kidnap my son. My son. How could you support this?" Dame Helena was shocked. She had agreed to some pressure on Marina, but she never imagined that Christine would be capable of such cruelty. "Roderick, I didn't know they would do this. You have to believe me." The situation exploded when the criminals hired by Raffaella publicly confessed to the crime, fearing the legal consequences. The patriarch of the Sterling family, Dr. Augustus, immediately severed all business ties with the Albright Sinclairs. "We will never do business with people who attack children," he declared publicly. "The Sterling family has principles." Meanwhile, Marina faced her own demons. The triplet pregnancy was difficult, and the constant emotional pressures left her exhausted. It was at this moment that she received a special invitation, the orphanage where she had grown up. Hope Haven Orphanage, in Chelsea, was celebrating its 50th anniversary and organizing a charity gala. Sister Teresa, the director who had cared for Marina since she was a baby, called personally. "My dear, you are our greatest inspiration, a girl who left here and built a dignified life. We want to honor you." Marina was moved. The orphanage was the closest thing to a home she had known during her childhood. "Sister Teresa, I'll be there, and I'll bring a very special person to meet you." Roderick insisted on making a generous donation for the event. "I want to thank the people who cared for the woman I love," he said, kissing Marina's forehead. The orphanage's gala was grand. Roderick donated $5 million for renovations and expansion, moving everyone. During the event, Sister Teresa had organized something special: free DNA tests to help other children find their biological families. "It's an old dream of mine," the nun explained to Marina. "Imagine how many families could be reunited." But it was during this event that Christine and Raffaella made their final attack. They appeared at the gala and began to publicly humiliate Marina. "Look, Raffaella," Christine said loudly for everyone to hear. The opportunist came to play princess at the charity gala. It's unbelievable how some people have no limits, Rafaela replied. Getting pregnant with triplets to trap a rich man. How desperate. Marina was visibly 6 months pregnant, and the attacks made her feel nauseous and dizzy. Roderick was about to intervene when Sister Teresa approached. Ladies, the nun said with authority, this is a celebration for abandoned children who have found hope. If you cannot respect that, I ask you to leave. It was then that something extraordinary happened. Dr. Anthony Albright Sinclair, the patriarch of the Albright family, who had remained silent throughout all the attacks, looked directly at Marina and paled. The mark, he whispered, pointing to a small crescent moon-shaped birthmark Marina had at the base of her neck, visible only when she tied her hair up. My God, that mark? Christine followed her husband's gaze and also froze. It can't be, she murmured. Dr. Anthony approached Marina with eyes full of tears. Daughter, he said with a choked voice, could you tell me where you were born? What's your full name? My name is Marina Miller. I don't have a family surname. I was abandoned as a baby here at the orphanage, she replied, confused. Sister Teresa, Dr. Anthony called. Do you have any records of when this young woman arrived here? The nun retrieved some old papers. Marina arrived here in 1995 when she was about 2 years old. The only thing that came with her was a small chain with a pendant. What pendant? Dr. Anthony asked, already knowing the answer. Sister Teresa opened a drawer and took out a small box. Inside was a delicate gold chain with a rose-shaped pendant, encrusted with tiny diamonds. Christine fainted upon seeing the jewelry. It was the necklace she had given her daughter on the day she disappeared. The DNA test confirmed what everyone already suspected. Marina was Isabella Albright Sinclair, the daughter lost for over 20 years. The child who had been kidnapped from a shopping mall at the age of 2 and never seen again, presumed dead after years of searching. My daughter, Dr. Anthony cried, embracing Marina. My dear daughter, I've finally found you. Marina was in shock. The woman who had attacked and humiliated her was her biological mother. The man crying in her arms was her father, and Rafaela, who had tried to kidnap Gabriel, was her half-sister. How is this possible? She asked, still unable to believe it. You were kidnapped when you were 2 years old, Dr. Anthony explained. The kidnapper died in an accident before demanding a ransom. We never knew what happened to you. Christine, when she recovered from the shock, tried to approach, but Marina recoiled. No, she said firmly. You attacked me, humiliated me, tried to kidnap my son. Being my biological mother doesn't erase that. Isabella, daughter, I didn't know. My name is Marina, she interrupted. Marina Miller. That's how I was raised, with love and dignity by Sister Teresa and the people of this orphanage. Rafaela, desperate to see her plans crumble, tried one last desperate move. She had poisoned the juice Marina had drunk earlier, hoping to cause complications in the pregnancy, but her desperate confession was overheard by everyone, and she was arrested on the spot. Dr. Anthony, devastated by his stepdaughter's malice and his wife's cruel behavior, took drastic measures. He transferred half of his shares to Marina, in addition to jewelry and properties that were rightfully hers as the legitimate heiress. You are my daughter, he said, and you deserve what is yours by right. Roderick proposed to Marina that same day, in front of everyone at the orphanage. You are the strongest and bravest woman I know, he said, kneeling. Regardless of surnames or inheritances, I love you for who you are. The wedding was simple, celebrated in the orphanage chapel, with the children singing in the choir. Dame Helena, who had finally understood the truth about Marina, welcomed her as a daughter. 3 months later, the babies were born. They expected 3 but 4 arrived, a surprise that completed the family's joy. Gabriel, now almost 6 years old, became the proud older brother to 4 babies, 2 boys and 2 girls. Marina looked at her family gathered in the maternity ward. Roderick holding 2 of the babies, Gabriel helping to care for the other 2, Sister Teresa present as the beloved honorary grandmother she had always been, and smiled. She had traveled a long way from the loneliness of the orphanage to this point, but every obstacle, every pain, every moment of fear, everything had led to that perfect moment. You did it, Roderick whispered in her ear, kissing her forehead. You built the family you always dreamed of. Marina smiled, stroking the head of one of the babies. No, she replied. We did it. Together. The security that now surrounded her family was not just material, but emotional. Marina had finally found her place in the world, not as the heiress to a fortune, but as a woman who chose her own path, who fought for love and who proved that, no matter where one comes from, it is possible to build an extraordinary future. And as she looked at that family that had formed in the most improbable way, Marina knew that every tear, every fear, every moment of uncertainty had been worth it. Because sometimes true love comes wrapped in the most impossible challenges, and the greatest victory is not giving up the fight for it.